Practice problem number 1 for chapter 18, specifically exercise 18.1, determining whether managerial accounting information is used or financial accounting information is used on each of these business decisions that you see here on the screen. Now, one thing to note about managerial versus financial accounting is that financial accounting focuses on external parties, such as investors, creditors, regulators, people that are outside of the business. Managerial accounting focuses on internal parties, people that actually work within the business, like managers, directors, employees. And that's the notable difference there. And so what you see here, these business decisions, you can be able to determine whether or not the use of financial accounting is something that is happening or needs to happen in order to make this business decision, or the use of managerial accounting needs to be made based on the business decisions that you see here. Okay, so I'm going to go through 1 through 8 and explain why it's financial accounting information that is used for the business decision, or managerial accounting information is used for the business decisions that you see here. Okay, so for number 1, determine whether to lend to a company. That's going to be financial. So I'm going to put F for financial accounting information that's being used to determine whether to lend to a company. And the reason why it's financial is because financial accounting focuses on external parties. So if I want to determine whether I want to lend my money to a company, I need access to their financial statements. So specifically the balance sheet, income statement, statement of cash flows, and a statement of either retained earnings or statement of equity. So I need access to those. So for example, company like Apple, Microsoft, those are huge companies, and they're very prevalent companies. And because they're big companies, they are publicly traded companies, meaning that they are required to furnish their financial statements online. So you can actually go on their websites right now and retrieve their financial statements within their 10K report or 10Q report. So you can retrieve it online. All of us, we all can, because it's viewable publicly. Now, as a potential investor or creditor, I'm able to make a decision whether or not I want to either invest in the company or lend to the company based on retrieving their financial statements and evaluating their performance. Okay, so that's why number 1 is financial accounting information. Number 2, evaluate a purchasing department's performance. Okay, so this one here is going to be managerial accounting information that's going to be used, or that needs to be used in order to make this decision. So as an outside party, I wouldn't be able to know how the purchasing department is performing. So I'm only privy to that information if I'm inside the business or internally in the business. So that's why this is managerial accounting. So as an outside person, I wouldn't know how that department is doing. The financial statements that are published wouldn't even tell me that at all. I just wouldn't know. It wouldn't be in the notes or anything like that. Okay, so I'm only privy to this type of information for number 2 if I'm already inside of the business. Number 3, report financial information to shareholders. So similar to number 1, this is going to be financial accounting. So financial accounting information is used for number 3 because similar to number 1 is if you are the creditor. Number 3 is if you are the investor or potential investor. So number 3 would be you are the investor, because it says to shareholders. So you are already an existing investor. And so because I'm already investing in the business, I want to know how the business is performing. And since I'm investing in the business, I am outside of the business. So I don't work for the business, just simply an investor. And an investor is an external user of the financial statements. Okay, so I want to look at the income statement, balance sheet. Those are both external financial statements or financial reporting. Number 4 says estimate product costs for a new line of shoes. This is going to be managerial. Okay, the reason why this is managerial is because I'm only privy to this information um, if I am inside the business, not outside of the business, because this is a product cost for a new line of shoes. So I don't know how much the shoes cost to make. So I don't know the raw materials. I don't know the working process, meaning the direct labor, direct materials, overhead. I'm not privy to that information because if if I'm an investor or if I'm an outside user of the financial statements, I'm not privy to that information. But I have to be inside the company in order to know the product costs of some shoes, the period costs, the manufacturing costs in total. I have to know all of that. Or in order for me to know all of that information, I have to be internal to the business. I have to be inside the business. So this is why this is managerial accounting information that's used. Number 5, plan the manufacturing budget for next quarter. This is managerial accounting information that's used. The reason why is because this is budget thing. So anything that's budget related, if you see something that says a production budget is being prepared for a specific product, or if you see that it says overhead is being or the overhead cost is being estimated so that a budget can be prepared, anything budget related is internal to the business. So that's when you know or should know that managerial accounting information is being used. Anybody outside of the business doesn't have access to the budget. Number 6, measure profitability of an individual store. This is also managerial accounting information that's used. If you're measuring profitability for one single store, external users of the financial statements won't be able to have access to the information like investors and creditors. This is only something that managers and directors have access to. So if you want to evaluate a performance for, let's just say, store A, and then also store B and store C, managers and directors are able to actually retrieve data inside the business in order to complete that task or complete that duty. So number 6, managerial accounting information. Number 7, prepare financial reports according to GAAP. This is financial accounting. Financial accounting is all about following GAAP. Especially if you are a publicly traded company, you are required to follow GAAP, meaning generally accepted accounting principles. And so the financial statements that are furnished publicly, they do follow GAAP. And so those financial statements are external financial reporting. So this is why this is financial accounting. Now, one thing to note here before we move on to number 8, any reporting that's done internally does not have to follow GAAP because it's not being published to everyone. So they don't have to follow GAAP. So that's another difference between managerial accounting versus financial accounting. Managerial accounting reporting, any reporting that is done internally, so internal reporting, does not have to follow GAAP. Financial accounting reporting that's external, it needs to follow GAAP. Then lastly, number 8, determine location and size for a new plant. That is managerial accounting managerial accounting information that's being used. So if you're trying to determine a location for a new plant, there's going to be a plethora of information that you have access to in order to make that decision internally. So anybody that's external users of the financial information will not have that information. I mean, it's outside too. So as an investor or creditor, you are not going to have or make that determination. Only the individuals that work within the company is going to, have that information to determine whether or not something can be done, like a new plant or some type of acquisition. There's a lot more information that is, I want to say that it's accessible internally rather than externally. So that's why number 8 is M, managerial accounting information.